We did a video 3 years ago on lasers on your AR and why it's a horrible choice. You guys have left a lot of comments, and I'm maybe starting to rethink my opinion. What's going on, guys? G2 here. Welcome back to the channel. And you know, I always go through your comments. So even if I haven't posted a video in a long time, I'm always checking your comments. I'm always looking for feedback. And there's been a handful of videos that have just, you guys have really been active on. And this is one of them. And I wanted to revisit it because although my opinion may have changed, we'll find out, you guys have brought up a lot of counter arguments. My initial video was about AR lasers. You know, the difference between the placement of the laser on your AR and how that will impact its performance. In the video, we concluded that the proper and best place for your laser on your AR is either at the top or the bottom. The side is not really the best. Now, the one thing that we need to cover that I covered it in the video, but I didn't really use the proper nomenclature or terminology, is the difference between a converging and a parallel zero when you're using a laser. So a parallel zero means that when you zero, it doesn't matter. For a parallel zero, you can have it on the sides, the top, the bottom. Basically, zeroing, now before we do this rifle is clear. Okay, YouTube, we're good. There's nothing in here. A parallel zero means that the laser has an infinite zero, right? Lasers do not drop, they do not curve, they work in a straight line, an infinite straight line, until literally you run out of visibility or it just dissipates because of distance. But purely speaking, scientifically, lasers only work in a direct straight line. So a parallel zero means that this emitter is going to go in a straight line for infinity, right? If we zero it on the barrel. So let's say we have a 0, 0. It is not zeroed at all to work back into our target line. It is just going to stay permanently on this plane. Okay, so for that, you just do a simple measurement. So if we're using this one here, we would measure the center of the emitter to the center of our barrel, and that would be roughly 1 3/4 inches. Okay, so using a parallel zero, you can determine that at any given distance, depending on where your laser is, the left or right, top or bottom, it will always be 1 3/4 inches off of that center line. If you have it on the top, 1 3/4 inches high, bottom 1 3/4 inches low. You guys get the picture. You're bright individuals. So that is a parallel zero. Converging zero means that you are zeroing this laser to cant or move to a specific distance that you want it to perfectly line up with whatever distance you're targeting for. So let's say 50 yards, converging zero. So at 50 yards, this laser will convert and match your barrel only at 50 yards. The bad thing about converging zero is at 25 yards, you're off. At 55 yards, you're off. At 52 yards, you're off. At 100 yards, you're way off. And at 200 yards, you're off the planet. So for very, very specific distance acquisition and target acquisition, converging zero makes sense. If you want flexibility, then the converging zero is not it. If you know that you're only setting up for a target at X distance, then converging zero would be the appropriate method for you to use. But it's not, obviously, for the explanation I just gave, it's not the best way to sight your zero. Now, in my opinion, I think the best way to sight your zero on your AR is to take it off and throw it in the trash, okay? Because the other thing that you guys are missing is that while lasers work in a infinite parallel zero or an infinite line, unfortunately, we live on planet Earth where gravity and physics exist. We're not in space, to which if you were in space, then yes, this would be perfect because you would have no gravitational pull, you would have no friction, the bullet would go in a straight line forever. But this is the real world, and bullets work in a trajectory. I'm going to show you pictures here of exactly what a 5.56, what that trajectory looks like at varying distances, and why it doesn't matter where your laser is, converging zero, parallel zero, top, right, left, or bottom. You're still, if you're looking for precision, this is not it. All right, so let's look at the pictures. Okay, so here is the AR trajectory chart for a 25-yard zero. You'll see on the bottom axis here, it's range in yards. Every line is 25 yards, and as you go on the vertical axis, it's showing drop in inches. So the green line denotes our laser, right? Lasers work in an infinite line, but you look at the 25-yard zero, at 25 yards, you will be pretty much on line with your target as expected. Then when you get to 100, now you are about 4 inches higher. And then as you come back down to 200, you're closer. You zero again at about 250. And then as you continue to decrease, that the target, the laser and the target just don't match up, and it's a complete waste of time to have a laser on here. So with our 50-yard zero, you can see that your laser is pretty much within 2 inches, depending on how you have it, left, right, up, down, bottom. We're working on a parallel zero here. You're pretty much within 2 inches of your target all the way to about 175 yards, right? You're going to be a little bit high, a little bit low during the curve of that initial trajectory, but from 0 to, let's call it 175 at a 50-yard zero, your parallel setup for your laser will be fairly accurate. Now we move on to the 100-yard zero. So again, you can see your 100 yards, you're pretty much in line, but look at the difference in the drop-off between what we just saw at 50 yards to what we see at 100, where we were pretty close at 175. Now if we look at 175, we are 4 inches low. Now we'll go to the 200-yard zero. So you have your reticle zeroed at 200 yards. Our laser is set on a parallel zero. So we're looking at our laser line. How does that vary in difference to our trajectory? You can see you're pretty much always going to be below target because, again, the bullet works in a curve. So it's going up to come down to hit at 200. So after 200, you're getting nothing out of this, which is, let's be realistic here. With an AR, 200 is probably your max effective range for a red dot or a low power variable optic, but anything other than that, you're not going to be getting the most out of utilizing a laser. And then finally, when we look at the 300-yard zero, I mean, guys, this is what I would expect, right? You're going to have, if you're zeroing your red dot or your whatever optic or scope that you're using at 300 yards, your laser is going to be effective for about, we'll call it 15 to 30 yards, and then you're not going to hit anything until you hit that 300 yards. Not that you're even going to be able to see your laser at 300 yards, but again, this is the worst performance of all of them. So I guess the question is, if you decide to use and set up your AR with a laser, what is the best range for you to zero your optics. And you just saw on the chart, it's 50 yards. So a 50-yard zero will give you basically a optimal laser targeting from about 25 yards all the way out to 175. You're going to be up and down, we'll call it 2 inches based on, again, whatever your distance is from your laser to your bore. That will always be consistent, but you are going to be way more prone to hit the target with not precision accuracy, but with decent accuracy from 25 to 175 yards. So 50-yard zero is your best option. Anything below the 25, the 100, the 200, the 300, you're not going to be getting the most out of your laser. Now, let's look at another application to where I think lasers are 100% a great addition to a firearm. And that's for pistols. And again, this is clear. Okay? So you look at a pistol, completely different bullet trajectory when it comes to, we have a 9mm, this is a Glock 19, and we have a trajectory chart that I want to show you on this as well. Okay, so here we are. This is a 9mm trajectory chart. This is based on basically a 9mm Luger. Bullet trajectory line is in that blue, laser line is in the green. The range is on the bottom in yards, and then we have drop on the side in inches. So if we look at our laser, I have it set up just the way that my pistol is set up, 1 1/4 inch below. So it's set up just like as it is, and you can see from 0 all the way out to about 50 yards, we would be basically hitting where our target is based on our laser, 1 inch high. It would start to come down to 0, kind of perfect alignment around the 40-yard, 45-yard range. But for a pistol, you are going to be more accurate with the laser in that engagement range distance as long as that you remember what your parallel zero hold is. Okay, so I hope we've clarified this a little bit. The big point that I wanted to remind you is bullet trajectory, and that most people think that, especially with ARs, the bullet comes out flat and then it drops, and that's not the case because it's based on your zero distance, right? So if you have it 0 to 300, it's going to go up very quickly and then back down. Even at 50, it goes up and down. So your bullets don't go straight and down. They always have an arc. That's why it's called a trajectory. I think that if you want to do your laser on your AR, you have to set it up to optimize that particular attachment. In my opinion, it's not worth it, but you do what you want to do, what you feel more comfortable with. But if you are, the data's right there. It's 50 yards. 50 yard zero for your optic, and then a parallel zero for your laser will give you the most optimal performance from 25 to 175 yards. And you would only have to mitigate that distance from the center of the laser to your bore, which again is a parallel zero, right? Stay away from converging zero. So for parallel zero, again, make sure you always keep that in mind, that you're always going to hit X distance, left, right, up, or down, based on where the orientation is on your setup, and set your optics up to 50 yards, and you'll get the most out of that laser. For your pistol, most pistols sit up at the bottom, and you can basically mitigate that. We saw it's like at the most, you're only going to have to worry about that for the distance that the pistol would be the most effective. So from 5 yards to about 50 yards, that's it. That 1 inch is going to be below or up. Just remember, again, factor in the bullet trajectory and know that at what point does that laser meet your trajectory. So at the pistol, we knew it was at 45 yards. So at 45 yards, the round will intersect where our laser is. So from 0 to 45 yards, you're always going to be that much higher because of the way the bullet exits the firearm. And the same goes for the AR. So I hope this helps you guys. I want to thank you all because just the conversation has led me to this video and thinking that we need to clarify and maybe look at to give you the information as to if you're going to do it, what's the best way to set up your gear. So until next time, make sure that you're practicing safe weapons handling at all time and treating every weapon as if it was loaded. God bless America. G2 out.